first quote was, "I just didn't want to see the man. Why? I'd begun to hate him. Since his arrival in the country, he had made various public statements that had infuriated black people. Statements like the press should stop hounding him for comments on apartheid." So this would be, this is like hatred towards, I think it was like Joe Foster.
I think it's Bob Foster.
Bob Foster, alright, my bad. Bob Foster, and because his uncle had gotten him tickets to go see a boxing match with him, but he didn't want to go because Bob Foster kept making like weird comments and stuff about like how he wanted to like get a vacation in like South Africa, and he wouldn't like visit the ghettos and stuff.
Yeah, he kept kind of backing up South Africa. He said he liked it, and he also said that he was there. He didn't want to fight there because of for political reasons. He kind of wanted to be there because of just to win the fight, and I guess he didn't like that. He's fighting against another white guy, so.
Yeah, well, basically Bob Foster is a black American boxer, and he basically said, I'm here to box. I am not here to talk about apartheid. I'm not here to talk about the political state of South Africa, and he basically refused to address the press whatsoever. And they were asking him because, as we saw a while ago, black sports figures, black boxers, that's has an effect on him.
I guess it's like not really like his duty, but I mean he has like such influence and stuff that just like making these comments or visiting like the ghettos, like where all like the blacks live and stuff, would have like had a big impact on the views.
And Johannes was saying how they didn't expect people to come out and actually be in the protests and physically fight apartheid, but they expected people to at least speak out because especially rich Americans, even if they're black, they're not going to get they're not going to be killed by the South African police because that would cause too much stir in the U.S. Obviously, if they killed Arthur Ashe, if they imprisoned Arthur Ashe for being against apartheid, then that was going to cause a big disturbance in the U.S. What they wanted was just someone to just to acknowledge that they wanted Bob Foster to acknowledge that apartheid existed and that it was an issue and that it wasn't a good thing. They sort of just ignored it and accepted the fact that it was there and didn't want to try to do anything about it. He didn't care really.
Yeah, he basically just ignored it. I think probably to some extent because he was afraid of causing his own. I mean, he's probably worried about his own PR. But do you guys think that as a successful black man, he has a duty to address apartheid?
I think he has like somewhat of a duty because his ancestors had like a history of being like slaves in the United States as African American slaves, So he has to have like, some sympathy for like the apartheid movement, So yeah, I guess like he would do that, but like I guess he did. So.
If it was you, do you guys think that you would speak out publicly against apartheid?
I mean, if I was in that, he's in a pretty good position to do whatever the hell he wants to and get away with it. He's a rich, successful American, a famous American guy. I feel like if you're in that position, it's almost just like, why not?
Why
Because
not?
There's nothing, there might be some like negative aspects of it coming from like your manager or like your I don't even know, but there might be some negative aspect coming from people who are against or are for apartheid and they aren't gonna like you as much anymore if you come out against it, or from like officials or whatever. But it's like you're famous, you're talented, people like you, do something. It's just like there's nothing I don't understand.
Marco, after you win Wimbledon, you'll be in a great position to impact
It's the best tennis player in the state.
politics viewpoints. Would you use that as a platform to raise awareness or criticize an injustice somewhere? Knowing that it might cost you endorsement deals, it might create a lot of headaches for you, it might actually be a distraction from your training regimen. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, if I were in Ash's
If you don't do it, we're
position.
gonna be mad.
Don't tell them what they want to hear. Be realistic.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I would agree with what Arthur Ashe did. He did, he supported, like, pretty much everything that, like, for the black community, I guess. And so,
Why would you follow follow him as a role model?
I mean, I don't really know, but he kind of put a lot of, not only, like, his individual time into his tennis, but, like, he cared for, like, the other people, like, wherever he would go to play, like, a tournament or something, he would, like, not only just focus on winning the tournament, he would kind of help out with the community, and, he pretty much...
But he was probably compromising his energy to a certain extent, right? Like, if you're 100% committed to winning a tournament,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't be out on some tennis court in a low-income community signing autographs. You probably should be in the hotel room getting a massage or hydrating or getting sleep, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Steiner.
Look how well he did. Of course, he didn't win that.
How well did he do? He got second place.
Yeah, but he didn't win that tournament specifically, but he only lost.
He did say that he played the best tennis in the world, but if the guy played better.
And it doesn't just because he didn't win doesn't mean he's not a phenomenal tennis player. You can still be great at what you do and not be doing that 100% of the time and thinking about that 100% of the time. Of course, it's going to occupy most of your thoughts and what you're doing. But I mean, he was still a great tennis player just because he was out there being supportive to kids who don't have anything. Doesn't mean that he wasn't able to dedicate his time to playing tennis. He was still great.
Well,
So-
and I think, Steinhardt brought up a point about, what if he doesn't win the tournament? There's some question of whether winning the tournament in a position like that is necessarily... So, yes, Arthur Ashe loses that particular tournament, but he gains...
But he wins Wimbledon.
He wins Wimbledon later, but he also gains the full support of 75% of a nation. And I think that that's really, really cool. And I think that if you were in that position, and maybe it's not sports, whatever it is, if you're in a powerful position, if you compromise your performance to some extent to interact with people, I think that can be necessary and beneficial.
I mean, yeah, it's just like, if he did nothing, chances are people wouldn't really like him that much, and he'd be losing all of that support. If he did what he did, he has all this support. So, I mean, it just depends.
But I mean, what is that support getting? Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you feel so much better if you were in a country playing a tournament? Wouldn't you feel so much better knowing that like 80% of the nation has your back and is supporting you, rather than knowing that 80% of the nation kind of doesn't like you at all because you didn't do anything?
Well, and there's also some question of, you say, what is that getting you? Don't we have a duty as humans to sometimes not get something out of it? If there's 80% of the nation is living oppressed, so you have some duty to help them. If you're gonna go home on your private jet and live in your suburban house, maybe giving up those 2 weeks of your life is something you could do.
Shooting zingers.
Are you saying that's something you would do?
What if winning 10 Wimbledon titles as the first black man to do so is more impactful than winning one, which is what he did, and spreading himself around and doing community service?
He only won one Wimbledon.
Only one. That's yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that I think that's a good question, is like, where is your impact going to be most important? But it's not like Arthur Ashe was not a successful tennis player. He succeeded in that field and in the field of public, persona.
He in South Africa specifically, I'm pretty sure he probably had more of an effect doing what he did, going around to people, because than just winning a Wimbledon. If they heard about some guy off in America, some black guy who won this, it wouldn't have been as impactful, because they didn't even know who Martin Luther King was. Like, it's not going to impact them if they have no clue who this guy is. It came out and talked to them and signed autographs and was influential. And that, I think, for South Africa specifically, I don't know about the other countries in the world, but in South Africa, that had more of an impact, because they wouldn't have even known his name if he hadn't
and there's I mean, there's some question too of like, I feel like saying like, what if he had won 10 Wimbledon titles? I feel like that's making it all like very linear. Like there's an aspect of human error too. I mean, who knows? If he had chosen to stay in his hotel room in South Africa, that probably wouldn't have affected whether or not he won more than one Wimbledon title.
I don't know. What do you guys think? We're kind of dominating this.
Well,
You guys say stuff.
I said like your comment, what was it? It was like saying that like they wouldn't have even known him and stuff. Do you remember how like it started like they all got like when Ali won, like no one knew who he was, but he like beat a white man, so like all the towns and stuff were like, running around like screaming his name, like holding newspapers, like passing out and stuff. So I think it still would have carried a lot of weight, like had he beat all those white guys.
All those white men, yeah. That's a fair point. I mean,
That's
Muhammad Ali definitely had a huge effect on that community. And I think that he had also, Muhammad Ali also had a huge effect in America. But it's not like Ali wasn't a public person. He did a lot of public work. He just did a lot of it here.
I think a matter of America not being known in South Africa is like not really there, because like remember the mom was telling Johannes like what free rights was. She has to know that because of like America or some other country, right? So I think they would have known anyways like who Arthur Ashe was and stuff. I'm pretty sure only the young people didn't know what America was. And eventually they because like the curiosity would get them there, you know?
Yeah. They didn't know Martin Luther King either. So, and he's like Martin Luther King. He has a whole day.
I mean, they knew that he was famous, and they knew that he had done good things for black people.
More than you guys.
They didn't know who he was. I guess we could also, we're talking a lot about American figures. I feel like maybe we should just talk about, like, what do you think, like, as someone growing up in South Africa, where what you have is sort of the opposite of freedom, what do you think even just the concept of America would mean? Like, how would that...
Like the world.
That's about 2 minutes.
Oh shit.